Donald Trump has just staged a real rout of Keir Starmer. He literally destroyed him in front of the whole country, ridiculing and humiliating him on live TV, leaving no stone unturned. Trump furiously demanded Starmer's resignation, and why? Because, as it turns out, his latest political move could bring down the UK economy, causing it a colossal damage of £22 billion. Donald Trump is clearly furious about this, and his anger knows no bounds.
It's good, isn't it? I mean, when I say good, I mean Joe Biden arguably might have just handed them the election.
It's amazing, and I mean,
sorry,
Trump is, in many ways, a really lucky candidate. You know, first of all, he got Kamala, all right, you know, as his opponent. She came in, she was polling in number 7 in even South Carolina, which really favors African Americans in 2020. She never got above 2%. She dropped out before Iowa. She's a really bad candidate. So, you know, if I was running for president, I'd really want to run against Kamala.
The Labour Party seems to have decided that it would be a brilliant idea to send 100 of its staff to campaign in support of Kamala Harris. And they chose not just some states, but the most important and strategically important ones. Pennsylvania, Nevada, and North Carolina. These are exactly the places where real battles are unfolding that can determine the outcome of elections. We have 100 employees of the Labour Party, both current and former, who are now rushing to the United States, to these key states. How many more times can Keir Starmer fail before someone realizes that his political career needs a serious revision? He seems to be competing for the title of the worst strategist in the world. Let's remember his long list of unfulfilled promises. Starmer is so proud of himself, but don't forget what he promised in 2019. To introduce a 5% tax for the richest, abolish tuition fees, and carry out large-scale economic reforms. Where are all these promises now?
We're both quite pleased, aren't we?
I have never been happier. In the words of Donald Trump, look what happened. It is brilliant. 71 million Americans just told all those snobby East Coast, West Coast elitists where to go. It was brilliant. I stayed up and watched the entire thing, so I am exhausted.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, I am exhausted. I've had about an hour's sleep, but this has just been one hell of a day. It has been everything that we wanted it to be. It really, really has, you know.
Yeah, and looking at Twitter and the social media today, you know, a lot of these liberals and lefties have made complete fools of themselves. Like Rory Stewart.
Oh,
God. Don't you ever tell me he's a clever guy again.
Yeah.
Kamala will win comfortably for these reasons. You know, the black vote will go to, and the women won't vote for Donald. They did, didn't they, Rory?
Trump is masterfully manipulating tariffs, and if he decides to demonstrate his might, the UK could find itself in a terrible position. And who got us into this? It's Starmer. So much for his leadership style, when his every decision just screams madness. The Trump team has filed an official complaint with the US Federal Election Commission, and they are absolutely right. This is not just a minor diplomatic mistake. This is a real international scandal. Trump's statement angered Starmer, who called him a threat to transatlantic relations. The Labour Party, in fact, has given Trump a great opportunity to make them look like ignorant bores, and he is happy to take this chance. Are you going to sabotage any attempts to establish good relations with the United Kingdom?
The gaffe from Biden, you have the McDonald's thing, as you mentioned, Kevin. I mean, he's just been crushing it on all cylinders.
I mean, on a hilarious level. So he did that stunt, and he got down from the truck, from the garbage truck, and then he had to go to the rally to make a speech. So he says, "Hand me my jacket." So one of his team said, "You should keep that on, you know, to make the speech." "Oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that." And then somebody else said, "Makes you look really slim, sir." He goes. Does it? Well, we've got that on video, so watch.
Yeah.
Let's talk frankly about Starmer's actions. The crisis of the high cost of living is tormenting millions of people, and what is our so-called savior doing? It raises marginal energy prices by as much as $900, squeezing families and businesses like demons in a juicer. How dare he? Oh, but he promised to help, didn't he? These promises, as always, just disappeared into thin air, leaving people in distress. And if you think that's the limit, wait until you hear about his dramatic U-turn on immigration issues. Labour no longer tries to hide its indifference and allocates a whopping £4.2 million a day to provide housing for asylum seekers, while in October alone, more than 5,400 migrants illegally crossed the English Channel. How can this go on? Where is the concern for our citizens?
It's the thing about Trump is he's a confidence player.
Yeah.
Now, at the beginning of this campaign, you remember he was all bitter and miserable because he wasn't confident. He thought he might lose.
Yeah.
Now, I think he's very confident he's going to win.
Yeah.
And is, as I say, a confidence player. And he's just exuding optimism, exuding fun, frankly, exuding victory.
And he seems so relatable. You know,
Yes.
every one of these things he does, he becomes more relatable, and he appeals more to the common man and woman. It's really fantastic to watch. You know, in the last few weeks, obviously, you can even see it from me and the rest of my gang.
In addition, the Labour Party under Starmer's leadership has actually driven support for small businesses into the abyss. Raising the minimum wage may sound attractive on paper, but in practice it leads to massive job cuts, leaving people without a livelihood. And if you add to this a shocking tax increase of £40 billion, then we get a real spiral of economic recession which drags the country into the abyss. Did he even think about it? Hardly. And how not to mention Adil Ray? This man really deserves a reward for his courage. When he harshly criticized Starmer on live TV, Adil didn't just blame him, he exposed Labour's hypocrisy, especially regarding the cruel two-child benefit cap that leaves more and more children in poverty. Starmer didn't know what to say. He stood, hesitated, and evaded the question because what can you say when your own politics is a blatant example of betrayal? At the moment, Starmer's leadership is a real tragedy, and the UK is paying the price for his colossal failures, leaving people in despair and without hope for the future.
Hey, Julia, I am so disappointed in you. You know, I appear here regularly. I thought we were friends, and unlike how our networks interview Kamala Harris, they give her the answers in advance, they script her answers, they edit her comments so she looks smarter than she is. I come on here live and you don't edit me, you don't coddle me like they do her. And she wants to be the most powerful politician in the world. Why do you treat me so poorly?
I'm really sorry. I'd like to formally apologise for that, Mr. Gill. It'll never happen again. I'll, of course, tell you what I'm talking about. You already know what we're talking about, don't you? Because this is a Trump campaign basically taking action, legal action, over what they regard as illegal, blatant electoral interference by the Labour Party.
The Labour Party really seems to think that participating in election games overseas is just wonderful entertainment. At least Nigel Farage is not shy about calling it a national disgrace. Whatever you think of Farage, at least he's honest. The Labour Party, however, is confused. They can't decide whether they want to be global crusaders or local heroes and end up failing at both. And what about David Lammy? This man is acting like he's on a real battlefield. He was not afraid to call Trump a sociopath, a neo-Nazi sympathizer, and a tyrant in a wig. What a subtle and sophisticated approach, isn't it? The Labour Party has really outdone itself. If Trump takes over the White House again, they will need a real miracle or 1,000 letters of apology to somehow fix the situation. Lammy's words single-handedly destroyed any chance of establishing any kind of relationship with Trump. It's just comical. The Labour left is crawling at the feet of someone they have publicly humiliated, and they have no one to blame but themselves. How sad and absurd it is.
How about this for a number? Just 17% of the public think that this Labour government are doing a good job. And I'll be honest, I'd love to have a glass of whatever that 17% have been drinking. And the Prime Minister's personal poll ratings have fallen to, wait for it, minus 30. That makes Prince Andrew look like a national hero. I've been warning about Sir Keir Starmer's dubious character for years, given his support for the truly dangerous Jeremy Corbyn, his efforts to reverse Brexit, his taking of the knee to the woke mob during BLM, His inability to define what a woman is, and in the absence of compelling data, calling for more of those ruinous COVID lockdowns in order to look prime ministerial.
Pensioners who have earned the right to enjoy their holidays in peace feel abandoned and forgotten, as if they simply do not exist. According to the Labour Party itself, up to 4,000 pensioners may freeze this winter due to cuts in fuel allowances. This is the same party that constantly screams about compassion and caring for people. Yes, that's right. People are tired of Labour members who flaunt their so-called sympathy. While pensioners literally freeze to death when voters feel abandoned and unprotected, it is a clear signal that you have seriously failed.
This Labour government has, by anybody's standards, Trev, shown itself to be either out of touch, incompetent or deaf to what your average men and women in the street think about what's going on in this country. We have prisoners being released and housed in hotels. We have record numbers of migrants arriving because there's an amnesty being put in hotels. We freely know, because Labour have told us, that their winter fuel cut to pensioners could cost 4,000 lives. They've got their noses in the trough to the extent that that dominated the Labour Party conference. And today, as he flies off to New York, not New York, Washington, as the Prime Minister of this country, having said sausages instead of hostages yesterday, what do we hear? The union fat cat bosses, they don't agree with his number one policy, winter fuel cuts.
The man who vowed to bring order to politics has now become embroiled in an election interference scandal. Reporters are literally tearing him apart, and frankly, he deserves every word of this harsh criticism. His promises look like complete fiction, and the public no longer believes a word he says. It would be funny to watch the confusion of the Labour Party if it did not have such disastrous consequences for our country. What do you think about this video? Share your thoughts in the comments. See you later.